Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to tackle a challenge that I know trips up a lot of folks, troubleshooting a switch mode power supply when you have absolutely zero documentation. No schematic, no nothing.
So you're looking at this complex board and you're thinking, how on earth do you fix this thing without a map? Well, that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to reverse engineer this thing, figure out how it works, and pinpoint where it might fail, all without a single official schematic to guide us.
All right, here's our game plan. We'll start with just a visual inspection. Then we'll dive into the theory of how the circuit actually works. We'll cover a super important testing mistake you've got to avoid, and then we'll actually make the signals visible and see this thing in action.
So what we've got on the bench today is a 24-volt, 10-amp power supply that came out of a CNC machine. Our mission, should we choose to accept it, is to figure out its weak spots and how it might fail, starting completely from scratch.
Okay, before we even touch anything, I have to put up a big warning sign here. We're dealing with dangerously high voltage and current. You should only, and I mean only, try this kind of thing if you are experienced and you really understand high voltage safety. Seriously, this stuff is no joke.
Now, here's where it gets really interesting. You can learn a ton about a power supply just by looking at it. The board itself tells a story about its design, its quality, and even how it was built, all before you ever plug it in.
And just by looking, you can tell this is a high-quality unit. The clues are all over the place. See the plated-through holes? That's for vibration resistance. They use name-brand capacitors, not some cheap junk. They've even got silicone on the bigger parts to hold them steady, and a little dab of glue on the voltage pot to lock in the setting. Someone really cared when they designed this thing.
So, based on that super clean layout and those two big switching transistors, it's a pretty safe bet this is a half-bridge design. It's a really clever and efficient way to build a power supply, and it's super common in quality gear. So let's break down how it actually works.
The whole idea behind the half-bridge is this really elegant back-and-forth action. You've got two switches, in our case they're FETs, and they take turns pushing current through the main transformer. First one way, then the other, like a perfectly timed push-pull system.
And it all happens in this little four-step dance, thousands of times a second. You've got an oscillator chip that sets the rhythm. That drives a smaller transformer, which then acts like a conductor, telling the two big power FETs exactly when to turn on and off. It's this rapid-fire switching that sends these perfectly controlled bursts of energy into the main transformer.
And here is the really genius part of the design. There's this tiny, absolutely critical pause between one FET switching off and the other one switching on. It's called dead time. And its only job is to make 100% sure that both switches are never, ever on at the same time. Because if they were, boom, instant, catastrophic short circuit.
All right, let's talk about something incredibly important. This is probably the #1 safety rule for testing a power supply like this, and it's a mistake that can instantly vaporize your expensive test gear.
So here's the deal. Without an isolation transformer, this circuit's ground is directly connected to the mains. The ground clip on your oscilloscope probe, that's connected to earth ground. If you clip that ground lead onto almost any part of this live circuit, you create a dead short right through your scope. You'll get a big bright flash and a whole lot of very expensive magic smoke.
And here's the other trap people fall into. You want to see the signals on both FETs at the same time, right? Well, you can't, not with two probes. See, the ground clips on your scope probes are all tied together inside the oscilloscope. So if you hook one ground clip to one part of the circuit and the second ground clip to another, you've just created a short circuit right across one of the FETs. Always use just one probe at a time here.
Okay, so with all of our safety rules in place and our isolation transformer doing its job, we can finally and safely probe the gate of one of those FETs. Now we get to see that beautiful half-bridge signal in action.
And look at that. This waveform, it tells the whole story. You can literally see the pulse that turns our FET on, how long it stays on, and then when it shuts off. And that little flat part in the middle, that's our dead time. And then that pulse going down, that's the signal for the other FET turning on. It's all right there on the screen.
Now check this out. Watch what happens when we start to draw some power. With just a light 2-amp load, see how narrow those on-time pulses are? The circuit is just kind of cruising. But as we crank the load up to its full 10 amps, look, the pulses get wider. The controller is smartly keeping the FETs on just a little bit longer to deliver more power. It's working perfectly.
So we had to know, how far could we push it?
It's rated for 10 amps, but we managed to pull a whopping 14 amps out of it before its internal protection circuit kicked in and safely shut everything down. Now that is what I call a robust, conservatively rated design.
So, after going through this whole process, what's the big lesson here? What have we really learned from taking apart this power supply without a single page of documentation? Well, I think the most important takeaway is that a black box really isn't so black if you just know how to look at it. If you combine a careful visual inspection, a solid understanding of the fundamental circuit concepts, and of course a strict dedication to safety, you can turn a totally undocumented board into something you can understand and, more importantly, something you can actually repair.
And that kind of leaves us with one final thought. We live in a world that's constantly telling us to just throw things away and buy a new one. But there's a real power, a real satisfaction that comes from truly understanding and being able to fix the technology that runs our lives. What's that kind of knowledge worth to you?